What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. I'm Mike. With me is Kev, Josh, and Steve. The Hounds had a massive week. Tons of details to get through.
Brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network.
But first, we got some feedback going on there. Somebody's watching us live. Kev, we missed you last week. I got two big questions for you, and they're sort of hanging on everyone's mind. Number one, how was the Tay-Tay concert?
Oh, I was waiting for the follow-up.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing. I mean, everything that led up to it was terrible. We went on Sunday night, and that's when all the storms came through, and everything was delayed, and lightning delays. People were shoved in crowded areas for like 4 hours, and it was just that wasn't good. The show was amazing. She performed in a downpour of rain for like the vast majority of the show. Stopped playing after 1:30 in the morning. We got back at the hotel after 2 in the morning. A night to remember. It was an awesome show. If you can, she'll be in Pittsburgh. And if you can, I know a lot of people stand outside of the stadiums now because you can hear the show and you can still see the screen most of the time and see her like on the screen. It's still, well shot and everything. Get down there, check it out. It was great.
You're gonna come up for that concert, aren't you? Not a Hounds game. You'll come up and stand outside the concert.
I'm not even joking. Riley and I will actually be in town during the Pittsburgh show because we're coming up for like 36 hours.
Well, of course.
For Riley's childhood friend's kid's first birthday. Okay,
those things last like an hour. Like,
yeah,
you could take some time out to go a Hounds game. Yeah. When is this? Let's go. You don't have time to look at the schedule. Just give us dates.
I think June 16th.
It's the summer of the Hounds. There's like a Hounds game every day in June. So right. I'm sure you'll be able to make one.
Sure. Yeah.
My second question, I totally missed it. Who scored the goal for the Hounds in the New England game? Who was that?
I was waiting for this. I was fully prepared. I know, it's like I go away and then everything happens. Griffin comes back. We, 2 huge wins, and what I need to just quit the podcast and then everything will come up roses for everyone.
Maybe. I just want to say, Kevin, to your defense, you could say one huge win. And we'll talk about why Birmingham wasn't a huge win later, but...
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I do have one complaint here, Mike. If any episode deserved a full-throated let's go. Yeah. It was this episode. So let's just circle back. Let's pretend like we just started the podcast.
Okay, hold on, because I don't have the intros written down anymore. So here's what I do though. Do you have a victory beverage ready yet? Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna do the intro. I'll do the let's go, and then you crack it. Okay, all right. This better be good. This better be like your best crack ever. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols, brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network. I'm Mike. With me Kev, Josh, and Steve. The Hounds got a massive win, and we are gonna talk all about it. Let's go!
That's a pretty good one. I was gonna like shake up the beer first. The victory beverage first, and then.
But we gotta say, you don't just have one victory beverage; you have 2, right?
I do have a second one.
Let's save it. Yeah. Save it for a second.
Yeah.
So, guys, tons to talk about in this one. First and foremost, the Hounds head to Foxborough. It was the Bob Lilly versus Bruce Arena showdown. None of us thought they were going to pull it off. I mean, New England is the number 1 team in MLS, or was the number 1 team in the MLS going into that game. Playing at Foxborough, Bruce Arena had never lost an Open Cup game there. And the Hounds stroll in and walk away with a 1-0 pretty decisive win. Like it felt very much like New England thought they could sleepwalk their way through it. And when you look at the actual chances in the game, the Hounds had the better chances in the game. Mm-hmm. So, Steve, give me a takeaway from that game.
So I'm going to rip off Bob Lilly and say the best that this team has played all season, including in practice. It was insane watching the way that the Hounds came out. And that was a Hounds team with quite a bit of rotation. Players that have not seen the starting 11 much throughout half the lineup. Other guys that have been bit part players throughout the season coming in and not looking scared at all. I mean, players like Tola and DZ just looking strong throughout the game, making runs, putting pressure on the defense. I wrote up a post on Reddit saying this is not, as much as people are going to say this is a classic Bob Lilly 1-0 win. It's not a classic Bob Lilly 1-0 win. It's a completely different style of a 1-0 win. And the only reason it was a 1-0 win was because it wasn't a 3-3 draw, which it easily could have been. And that's due to, I mean, a sublime pass by Ybarra on the outside of his foot, squeaks it through. I mean, probably only had millimeters on either side of the defenders to get that ball through to Danny, and Danny's finish was just insane. But this game had chances.
It was fine. I'm kidding.
Right? Like, this game had chances both ways. It could have easily been a high-scoring game. But what made the difference from my perspective was that New England, with, I mean, a 50% starting lineup and a lot of young, promising players, and players that have been good in American soccer levels, right? Like, I mean, Latif Blessing has been good in MLS when he was with LA. Not able to break down the Riverhounds press and not able to get the ball into the attacking third very often. And when they did, I mean, sure, heroics by Laser to clear a ball off the line that should have been a goal, right? Like, in a lot of games would have been a goal. It was those little moments here and there that I think made the difference. It's a fantastic game. I loved everything about it. Had buddies over. My one buddy is sitting there like, get the ball to the expletive end line, get the ball to the expletive end line. Like in the last 3 minutes, like this is a guy that, like, he gets animated, but, like, I mean, man, it was so funny because he's like standing up, pointing at the TV. Like, we had a blast.
Josh, I feel like every time we say Laser now, you should take a drink. Like, I think that replaces the Tyler Pasher.
But in a positive way.
In a positive, exactly. It's a positive thing.
Turning a new leaf. No, well, we have to talk about Pasher later anyway, so plenty of drinking to be had. But yeah, situation, this game, yeah, I remember we got the draw. Everyone's kind of bummed out. It's like, oh man, another year where we don't get to host an MLS team to, like, have that moment again, like we did against DC United in 2015. Just, being sad and just be like, all right, let's do this. Let's see how they do. And as the game went on, you're just like, we're gonna pull this off. Like, it felt like a game that was tilted our way pretty much the whole time, as far as I was concerned. Like, it felt like we were in it. Obviously, we were in it because we won, but, like, just not. There wasn't really a moment where I was like, man, they're not going to pull this off. Like, it felt good. And just the goal being from Danny and him just coming back to the club. It's just like a magical, like, like perfect storyline, well written. So it was just all great. And yeah, it was a fun game to watch. And yeah, then we'll talk about the draw afterwards, but yeah.
Well, and I mean, that wasn't, Danny's goal sort of felt like it came from nothing. Like, to your point, Steve, if you watch Ybarra make that pass, you're like, what do you do? What? Like, it was like a little outside of the foot dunk, and Danny was there to get it. We had better opportunities. Tola had one, like, story of his life fall to him that he unfortunately put wide. The one of the last plays of the game where Kenny is dribbling into wide open space, Ordonez, of all people, is running forward and tells him to slow down. Then Kenny passes it to Ordonez, and Ordonez decides to go to goal with Dequo wide open to his left and shoots it. Well, you could see at that point, Dequo wasn't even upset. He just looked at him and was like, dude. So, like, yeah, it was insane. Kev, what were your thoughts on this one?
Well, it's funny. I was going to say, I remember two moments from this game: the Griffin goal and the Ordonez flub. And yeah, because I remember I was thinking, okay, well, first of all, the whole like you just said it there. I know the commentator was like, oh, Ordonez was telling, like, Kenny to take it to the corner. Like, how do we know that? I don't know. Like, it doesn't matter. But, like, I don't think Ordonez is telling Kenny to do anything. Kenny can look back at him and be like, excuse me? Like, who are you? like I know what I'm doing. So, I don't know. But yeah, I was it's funny. Like being 1-0 up with that much time to go, and usually I'd be like, all right, yeah, like take a shot, whatever. But I was oddly upset with Ordonez. I was like, you idiot! Like you could have put it away and gave it to Deco and let Deco finish. But no, I mean, it was. I mean, looking back at the stats, New England have 1 shot on target. Now I know that like shots on target don't explain the full like chances created or whatever, but for a side like that they have going up against, I don't want to talk down to us, obviously, but like an MLS side going up against a USL side at home, you would expect them to put more than 1 shot on target. And yeah, we didn't there wasn't any fear in the Riverhounds players. I mean, they were willing to go toe to toe with them, and then they, and to back up a little bit, Mike, you said no one called it. Well, I think I remember scrolling through our Slack channel or something. Liz called it.
Liz called a win. There was one other person in the predictions that called a win, but everyone else called a loss. So yeah, and I mean, Josh, you, me, Justin, we all called like 3-0 losses. Like it wasn't even close. We thought we were just going to get smashed here. So yeah.
I mean, going up against the number 1 team in MLS and thinking, okay, yeah, they're a great team. And kind of also shows like, passion, what's involved there, just who wants it more. Like there's a lot of factors in here, and obviously rotation on their side as well. But I mean, let's not forget, like Josie Altidore was on the field with our players, and he completely whiffed that 1 ball. That was.
I appreciated the Steel Army tweet that came out today saying that his ball finally landed back on the field today.
It was like the klaxon alarm emoji, just like this announcement that's just in. Altidore's ball has finally landed.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit last week about how Don Garber, the commissioner of MLS, was basically poo-pooing the Open Cup heading into this round, basically saying that from a viewer's perspective, he didn't think it was a good enough product. And so the Open Cup sort of got defensive and was like, yeah, we agree, some of these fields and yada, it could all be better, blah, 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 blah. But then to see your best team lose to, at that point, a middle of the pack USL team. And yes, there's rotation for New England, but at that point, there was rotation for us too. You're basically saying that a starting USL team, in this case, was better than the bench of an MLS team. So when you talk about closing that gap, now listen, there were only 2 teams in the USL that made it through to the next round, and Birmingham played Memphis. So someone was making it through regardless. We were the only team that beat an MLS team. But regardless, this is a pretty big vote. You look at this, you look at what Sacramento did last year, like the gap is closing, if ever so slightly. It's still starting to close.
And there were 2 games that went to penalties as well between USL teams and MLS teams, right? So it's not, thrilled to be one of 2 teams and the only one with a cup set. But there were other teams that were competitive throughout their games. I mean, there were some teams that were not competitive from the USL, but there were teams that were competitive and pushed it to the last possible moment.
Yeah.
I always love when like cup competitions come out and say things like that, and then inevitably like things happen that just prove their exact opposite, thing, that narrative they're trying to push. Now I understand this is kind of like there's a fine line with this argument, because still on the whole, like when you look at the averages, yes, in general, the dominant expected, highly resourced clubs tend to go through. But yeah, I mean, there's always magic.
Those who cheat and watch the other team practice, just like Orlando did last year. But, yeah.
But I mean, to your point, Kevin, right? Like, I mean, I don't know how much Carlos Gil, his like fee was from where did he come from? Villa. But between him and Romney, right? Like, I mean, you're talking about multiple millions of dollars in transfer fees, right? Much less salary, right? Like that's 2 of their 5 subs that they're bringing on, which is blowing away the entire operating budget of the Riverhounds, and they can't find a goal. Fantastic.
Yeah. Kev, the other thing that I was pretty excited about, mainly for you, because I knew that you'd be down about Danny Griffin coming back and scoring. Junior Edo.
I'm not down. Okay, this is why at some point I need to have my Griffin monologue because words get twisted in my, So at some point I will do my Danny Griffin monologue. But what you said?
Go ahead, let's go. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Have your Danny Griffin monologue.
He hasn't written it out yet.
No, the nuance around my outlook on Griffin. He is a good player who has a great engine, who has a phenomenal injury record, who plays minute after minute and is solid in the midfield. I just feel like I think you have a problem as a team if Griffin is your best player. Now, I don't think anyone's saying Griffin's our best player. I'm not but I think
he technically had 2 goals in 2 games, but go ahead.
Sure, well, fine, but then if you want to say he's our best player, I'm saying we have problems because
I'm not
and,
saying he's our best player,
but he unlocks something with our best players. I feel like, and that's kind of like the key with Griffin. There's a reason why he plays freaking every single game last year, and so far every game he's been, that we've had since he's come back. He does unlock something, and while you don't always get your best player, the stats on the board don't show your best player sometimes. He is definitely a key player in unlocking what this team can achieve.
I agree. No, he's go ahead, Mike.
I sort of liken him to, we had talked a few weeks ago about Dikwa and how and we're going to talk a lot about Dikwa in this episode, but we had said that Dikwa may not be the most pure scorer, he may not draw the most fouls, but he is a consistent 8 out of 10 every single week. So where you might have other guys that might be more pure finishers, they may only get an opportunity once every 4 games. Whereas Deke was just going to bust his butt and be that consistent 8 out of 10 for you. And I think that's Danny too. He may not set the world ablaze, but he's what you're going to get out from him every single week. And so
I'm not putting him on the same level as Dikwa. I think Dikwa, he's becoming for me clearly our best player of the season so far. I mean, I wouldn't have
current top goal scorer in the ULS or USL. I mean,
9 goals in 10 games.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous,
insane.
Yeah,
pretty good.
So are we switching to Dikwa
in
this New England game? Because I've got something to say about him in the New England game, right?
Oh, okay.
Steve's new best friend. Go ahead.
I asked him about this on Saturday night, but I mean, I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when he's coming in with 11 minutes left to play. And his first touch was exactly what that game needed at that point. It's a chest, a ball off his chest with his back to goal, defenders closing in on him. And I don't remember who he passed it to, but he's got 3 midfielders that he's looking at and he can see where the field is. He's doing that. He gets in the game. He's bringing the ball to the corner. He had a moment against Birmingham towards the end of the game where how did he get to that ball in the corner towards the end of the game and keep it alive, right? But that's why he's there, because he's not just the guy that is currently banging in goals, but his presence on the field is that control and that settling presence when he's got his back towards goal, which I don't think we've really seen since Steven Dos Santos.
I think there can be, and I mentioned this on Twitter during the game, I think there can be a legitimate conversation about him being USL MVP this season. If you look at it in terms of letter of the law of the importance of a player to their team, I don't know if there's any other player in the USL that's as important to their team right now as Dikwa is to the Hounds and sort of what he does. So whether or not that continues, we'll see. The fact that he's scored 3/4 of our goals so far this year, one of the questions that kept coming to my mind in the Birmingham game, which I know we're sort of crossing a bridge here a little bit, but we're going to come back, was I personally would like to see more scoring depth, but in the USL, is it really a problem when the guy has 9 goals in 10 games? You'd love to see more, but you also can't really complain about it. So if you build a team around this guy and he delivers, is there really something wrong with that? It's getting harder and harder for me to make that argument. So
I don't think we're building a team around him, though. That's the thing. I think he just happens to keep scoring our goals. That's it. I mean, I don't know.
But he's one of the players that is key to our recent results. I mean,
of course.
Right? Like, I mean, with
no, I mean, I
predicted,
I predicted a Birmingham win because I didn't think Dequa would score 2 goals. Like I was like, all right, Dequa, like statistically, he has the numbers that he should have for the next couple games, and so like he's not going to keep scoring, right? He's not going to put up Holland numbers, but like maybe he will. I mean, he scores 2 goals in Birmingham, and we win the game 2-1. So yeah,
I think there is something too, and we're going to talk about this in the Birmingham game. There's something to this offense, we'll call it, or this system that Lily has started playing since Danny Griffin is back, that I think favors somebody like Dequa even more. And when we were asking the question of like, where is our offense going to come from? There is now Dequa and then legitimately 5 guys behind him that are in the box making stuff happen. And I know you're saying 4, Kev. I'm going to say that, there were moments in the game against Birmingham where I was really impressed with Blackstock and DZ, because I think that what they offer you is not just someone that's going to get deep and send in crosses. They are going to cut inside from time to time, and they're going to try to take shots. And there were a couple of times where you had sort of had everybody in the box, and all of a sudden DZ pops up wide open on the side, or you had Blackstock pop up wide open. Blackstock gets the assist on Dequa's second goal. And I think when you sort of think about it, if you have Dequa at the point, and then you have Mertz, Griffin, who, scored in the Birmingham game and it was rolled off, and Kenny right behind him, and then you have these 2 guys pinching in from the corners, that's a lot of bodies in the box that can make stuff happen. And so to your point, I do think that Dequa is like the guy getting it done right now. But, if he didn't get that second head, if he didn't get the second goal, Griffin got that header before our second goal. So we could just as easily be talking about Dequa and Griffin scoring against Birmingham. So it feels like the winds are changing a little bit in terms of how we're approaching this offense, which is interesting. But the one thing I wanted to come back to, Kev, your boy Junior Eto back, had no idea it was coming. Just saw him. Yeah. I saw him like standing on the sideline, and I was like, who is that? And immediately came right back in. And the change of pace was like, like what just happened? Like went from 0 to 50. And
yeah, he's so good. I mean, it's because I don't know. I saw it. I need to be careful here because like I don't want to just keep singing like his praises, contextualizing him as like somehow like significantly better than every other midfielder we have. That's not what I'm saying. But I think he does things regularly in games that other midfielders of ours don't tend to do. One of my favorite things he does is when he wins the ball for us, he retains possession and turns it defense into attack quickly. And so I think, Griffin, Mertz, Forbes, they can put in a shift defensively and they can break up play, and they can go in for kind of second balls or 50-50s and, win possession back for us. But Etu, just his positioning, the way he sees the game, the way he steps in front of passes, the way he wins the ball back while he's standing on his feet, and just immediately with his head up knows where our forwards are and just quickly transitions into attack. He did that on a couple occasions just from already being back that I watched. So no, I think, and all of a sudden, Mike, I was kind of making fun when you suggested, like a 5-2-2-1 or a 4-2-2-2. All of a sudden, the 5-2-2-1 looks really great because we don't have any real out and out wide players, but now with Etu coming back, especially, we have a bunch of pretty good midfielders. So, and we found something. We found a way to get them all on the field at the same time, and they're all playing really well together.
Oh, that was going to be my question: is how does he like? It seemed like start of the season he was starting for us. How does he get back into this lineup? Like the past few games, Lily seemed to like playing Griffin, Mertz, Kenny as sort of attacking midfielders. He's been using either Zweltsut or Ibarra as a holding mid. Does Etu unseat any of those guys?
I think Zweltsut, yeah. I have to give
it up. Is he a holding mid?
Etu?
Yeah. Would you consider him to be a pure holding mid?
Yeah. I would want Mertz and Griffin and probably even Forbes higher up the field than Etu. I want Etu winning balls back and transitioning into attack quickly. But to give credit to Ibarra, I haven't sung his praises enough. I think he's had a really good season. I was really suspect of him.
The first few games were questionable.
Yeah, and I think he's turned it around a lot.
Agreed.
I think he got physically like more in shape over the offseason. He looks faster. He looks like he has a bigger engine. He looks stronger, and he's kind of using his build to his advantage. And but he's not just all physical. I mean, he makes a great pass for Griffin in the in the New England game. He has vision, and he has some level of leadership that's kind of starting to ooze out of him a little bit too. And no, I think Ibarra has been great. So yeah, I think Ibarra, Forbes, Griffin, and Mertz are all playing really well right now. And in that sense, it's hard to see who Etu comes in for, but let the five of them fight it out for 4 positions or something. Right. I don't know.
For Etu, you weren't surprised that he didn't start for the following game, the Birmingham game?
Not entirely, just because I don't really know how they want to bring him back in after being out for a while.
That's fair. And I don't know his health level, if they're feeling like he's a full match fitness yet. So I didn't know if that was the situation there, or because when I saw him not in the starting lineup, I'm like, I wonder what Kevin's going to think about this.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I think it's after being out for a while. I know other people have said it's not even just how physically fit you feel, but it's getting the rhythm back in your legs of match speed. And so I don't know, I'll chalk it up to that. But I don't think Sweatsley's playing particularly poorly either. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, all the midfielders are playing really well right now. So I think this is probably a really good problem to have.
Yeah. So, a couple things on that. Junior was no contact in practice. What was that? Almost 2 weeks ago when I was down and talked to Eddie. So he was there, but no contact, still had the big brace on, comes in the 79th minute in the game against New England. So yeah, obviously I don't think he's going to be the starter the next week, but that shows that he's making fast progress, right? Going from not able to have contact on a Thursday to a week and a half later on a Tuesday, there he is in a game, to on Saturday, he's playing even more minutes. To the Ibarra point, that's Bob's got his work cut out for him at this point, because in this game against New England, Ibarra had 86.2% pass accuracy, which is one of his best of the seasons. And he had the team winning winning the possession 10 times, which was the best of anybody on the team. Throughout the season, as Bob has talked about Ibarra, he's comparing him to having almost all the tools that he sees with Kenny, right? I think that Bob sees Ibarra's ceiling is really, really high if he takes hold of it and continues to develop his game. Bob really likes him. You can see that in the way that he's putting him in. And I think the thing that I've noticed with Mark is throughout the season, even when he's not showing up on the stat sheets, even when he's making errant passes at times, his ability to hustle and get in positions where he's able to win balls is, I think, one of the strongest things that he's able to do. And you have to watch that, right? That's not showing up on your normal everyday USL stats. But if you're looking deeper into some of those, you're seeing that he's a guy that's everywhere, and he's getting those second balls and really making a difference on the field. And so you're right. But I think the other thing that's really important is, as soon as we re-sign Griffin, the conversation starts to be, okay, so who's getting dropped, right? And who's doing what? And my immediate thought was, is he becoming more of a number 8, that box-to-box midfielder at this point? And I'm not quite sure he's been quite that yet.
Wait, Griffin or Ibarra?
Griffin.
Yeah, okay.
Right? I'm not quite sure he's been box to box in a game, but throughout a game, he's been box to box with people like Trevor and Ibarra behind him. And I think that's just going to continue as Junior works his way into the lineup. And so who's dropped? Ibarra, Kiza, right?
Yeah.
And then
first,
when Rovi gets healthy, right? Bob's got some really hard decisions to make. That's fantastic. I don't remember a Hounds team where I've been able to say there are 4 guys sitting on the bench that could be in this starting lineup, as opposed to those are the first 4 subs, right? Like I think that's the difference. Any one of those 4 guys on the bench could be starters in any game, and they're coming off the bench just because there's not room. You can't put 15 players on the field.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up on that. I mean, you mentioned, I don't know, you didn't know if Griffin's like an N8 box-to-box kind of player. I mean, I think he's being played as a 10 right now. Like he's a straight up attacking midfielder who is told to crash the box and get goals, and and he has an eye for it. So
well, as much as there can be a 10 in a Bob Lilly offense where he Robbie, and Kenny can be whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think that's sort of the scariest thing is the number of times in both the Birmingham game and the New England game where Griffin or Mertz or Kenny would just pop up wherever, and you're not surprised to see them there. Like they sort of all three of them sort of have like a level of maturity and professionalism in their game that when they're on the ball, you are confident that they're going to do good things with it, and you're not surprised that they're popping up to play defense or pushing forward or whatever. They're everywhere.
I think the switch is happening that earlier in the season, these positions would have been taken up by Kiza or Lopez or, showing me coming off as a sub. And now maybe over the course of the season, Bob has had enough evidence where he's looking at it, it's like, okay, well, if I think Griffin and Mertz, especially Mertz, can give us, anywhere close to similar attacking threats as Lopez or Kiza, but I know they're going to give me more defensively and like more energy and more, kind of,
He's turned into the Pep Guardiola Barcelona where you play 8 midfielders on the field. And like you have one striker and you have your center back and your keeper and everyone else is a midfielder. And
Bob Lilly,
that's what it is.
Bob Lilly, the new Pep Guardiola.
No, that's not what I said. But I mean, look, Langston Blackstock comes in. We're all expecting him to be a striker.
Blackstock's great.
Winger.
Yeah.
You have DZ Harmon, who we're all expecting to be, a central midfielder. He's playing as a winger. You have Nathan Dos Santos playing as center back, making runs outside of Blackstock as a center back. Like,
I'll raise my hand and say early in the season I was critical of Dos Santos, and I think if you ever put him back at fullback, I'll be critical of him again. But if you play him on the left side of a 3 center back system, I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing great. One negative thing I think for as far as this game goes, the Open Cup game, showing me. I mean, baby giraffe a little bit got that vibe going where his legs are constantly just in his own way, and it just feels like this. Yeah. Stumbles upon the ball.
Yeah,
but
you definitely feel for him.
I could not buy a goal that game. Like he just like every time he had a great opportunity, it's like, nope.
So Josh, how does that paint your outlook for showing me for the rest of the season? If we're in a scenario where we're at home, it's 1-1 and there's 8 minutes to go in the game, do you want to bring showing me on to try to I know. Yeah,
he has flashes. I feel like Bob sees something in him. Like there has to be a reason why he constantly keeps on getting these opportunities, because there's no way that Bob would be putting him back in over and over and over again if he didn't see something there, because he has options. It's not like show him he's like, well, that's the only person on the bench I really have to go in there. Right. I do feel like there's something there, and he looks good in flashes. Like there's just something, at least for this game. Definitely was tripping over his own legs multiple times this game. And it became a little bit of a joke in the Discord server conversation for this game. It was just like, drink, he just tripped over his own feet.
I mean, but the other thing that I think it's very hard to keep in context is this is still his rookie year too.
Yeah.
So like you think back to Dos Santos in his rookie year last year, Ibarra in his rookie year last year. So I do think, Kev, to your point, what's interesting is the conversation between Show and Me and Kiza, because neither one of them have really done much, and neither one of them is going to, at this point, take Dequa's spot. Even I mean, as we saw,
right now, right? I mean, or Griffin's spot. Like I think Griffin has kind of taken their spot in the system.
Yeah.
I mean, so to Tola's credit, I think the one thing that I've been impressed with is. So in the Maryland game, I realized up to that point, he was one of our most productive providers. He was the first player to, I mean, at the Maryland game, he was the only non-defender with an assist, and he had 2 after the Maryland game. But I mean, I haven't had an in-depth conversation with him, but when I've asked him like, hey, like that was a close goal, right? Like he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm working hard. I'm going to get it. Right. Like he seems motivated and positive. And I think that to me is, he's not like, yeah, you know what? Like, I don't know what's going on. Right. Like he doesn't seem
defeated,
shaken by it or defeated. Like he's positive about it. He's got a good attitude about it. He knows he can find a way to get there. So I think that's really, really encouraging. I hope it happens soon, because I don't know how much longer a player can take that at this point, where he's had 9 good opportunities throughout the season so far that he's either put them on goal or over goal. I mean, he's had a few that, I mean, were good saves, but it's just like, I don't know. I was joking with a friend the other day, like if you're putting money on it, who's getting their goal first? Is it him or Langston? Right now, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's had many more opportunities, many more minutes, but
I only say that because Blackstock's mostly playing as a defender now. It seems like.
Sure, but
it could be a scenario where, I don't know. So in my view, it took Ibarra a season to become the player he is now, and maybe it's just the same thing with Showing Me. I don't know.
I mean, even think about Dikwa. When Dikwa first came in, he was sort of playing second fiddle to.
He's friggin' amazing now.
Yeah, and
right.
Everywhere. So.
Man, Josh, I think you remember that Steel Army Christmas party where Bob came and was talking about the player with USL experience that was super young, that was going to be every bit as good as Nico Brett, if not better. And I think like the season starts and we're all looking at like, really, Rapapa Mensah is going to be that guy? Like, okay, like he's got some talent. I've not asked Bob this. I should probably at some point. I don't know if he'll remember that conversation, but like, I'm convinced. I'm convinced that it had to have been Dikwa that he was talking about. Yeah. Like,
if it wasn't, it is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I was talking about Dikwa the whole time.
Well, guys, I guess back to the Open Cup. We now move on to the next round, where the draw was this past week. The Hounds are going to face Columbus Crew at home on Wednesday, May 24th at 7 p.m. Josh, you are a Crew fan. What is your read on this game?
Hashtag unsave the Crew. No, I'm joking.
No, all it took was one draw. That's it. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I mean, like, it's the fact that it is Crew, I think, is even cooler because of the fact that Crew is a well-known team. It will draw people in. Like, I was trying to think about, like, would like a like New England, for example, like I know they're well known, but they're not really a history, or like people in Pittsburgh don't really care. They don't think of that team as far as MLS goes, but people here know the Columbus Crew. So I feel like this was a great draw for us. We've played them in the past away, and those games I was hoping we would play at home. So obviously no torn allegiances here. It's the underdogs all the way, the Riverhounds, but it's definitely going to be crazy to see the Columbus Crew at Highmark Stadium. And I'm super looking forward to it. And
I know nothing about the Crew this season. Would like, are they good? I mean, look, we just beat the number 1 team in MLS at their home, so anything is possible. But they're not like terrible team. They're definitely not like top of the table, but they're doing pretty decent this year. But it's also like, I don't really know what that means as far as like this team or this game. Like how serious will they take it? Because they're still, it's pretty easy to make the playoffs this year in MLS. So it's one of those things where like, I don't think they're like going to be holding back because they're worried about players getting, injured or getting out of game fitness for the next game. And they're trying to make the playoffs because they're probably going to make the playoffs, at least the way it's looking. Steve, it looks like you just look up the standings.
I mean, so they're ahead of a couple of other teams because of games played, but there are 6th through 12th are all sitting on 15 points in the East, right? Like they're as high as 6th, but they're as low as 12th, depending on results in the next couple of weeks, right? Like things could change really fast for them. So I don't know that it's a given that they're just assuming it's easy to make the playoffs at this time when they're only 4 of those 9 teams are going to be in the playoffs.
18 teams make the playoffs this year between the West and the East.
Yeah, but it's 9 and 9, right?
Yeah. So I mean, that's still 9. The top 9 make the playoffs. So it's yeah.
But they could drop. They could drop.
You're starting to sound like a crew fan again now, Josh. Where you're like, 6 or 12, they'll make it.
I'm just saying. I'm trying to keep it in perspective as far as like I don't know what they're going to bring to Highmark Stadium, and there's also this other kind of factor when playing at Highmark, especially for for MLS teams. We play on turf.
It's a small turf field.
It's a small just turf in general. Are they going to want to play their best players on turf? Like, it sounds silly. Like, it's not like it's a really dangerous field to play on, but that matters to a lot of players. And that matters to a lot of top players where they're like, I'm not going to play on turf. And so, like, maybe we don't see those players.
Well, and this is what? There's 16 teams left in this round, right? I think.
Yeah, it's the round of 16.
So, like, even like at this stage, it's not unheard of for top league teams to still rotate pretty heavily, right? I mean, so I don't know.
But I guess I gotta think that do they want to be the MLS team that gets knocked off in the round of 16 by a USL team, right? like that's what. There's only 2 that are possible. Do they want to be the one? Like, that's a risk that I don't know if I'm a coach I'm willing to take at that point. Like, I think I want to play a strong game, and if we get beat, we get beat, but we're going out to win because we don't want that upset again.
I think it's always interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
It's all game theory at this point, right?
I'd be kind of curious to see what the New England fans, how they reacted to going out of the Open Cup. Like, I don't know. Part of me was like would think, whatever. Yeah, it's not great that we went out against the USL team, especially at home. But like, I don't know, what can you do? But yeah, I don't know. So it looks like our host dropped off. I can. So we talked a little bit about the draw. I don't know. Is there anything else you want to talk about Columbus before moving on to Birmingham?
Just that it's a huge, opportunity for Pittsburgh, for the Hounds. Something to keep in mind is hosting this round, I believe, is like $25,000 to host. So that's what awesome. The Hounds are paying to host.
Oh, I thought that's what we were getting.
No, that's not what we're getting. It's what we have to pay to host. Now, I also believe that if we're the last lower league team, we make $25K. So it could be a wash in that aspect. But I think there's also a percentage that we have to pay the federation from ticket sales and stuff like that, or like money we make. But still, we're selling out. Like, I mean, we've been selling out all these games. Yeah. We've talked about, in the regular season, we're selling out games. This game's going to be a sellout. I have no doubt. It's a midweek game. It's going to be a sellout. It's going to be a big deal. We sold out when DC United was here. So I seriously doubt we don't sell out this game.
I literally just went to go get tickets. I don't know if you guys talked about, I'm sorry, I dropped there for a second, the whole kerfuffle with trying to get tickets early on. So originally, if you were trying to get tickets as soon as they went on sale, the team was selling them as a package along with the game this weekend. And Josh, you mentioned that sort of the rationale there was to try to keep some of the Columbus fans from buying things out. So I was able to get 5 tickets, but there wasn't a lot of, it was like supporter section and there was like 1 or 2 seats elsewhere. So this will very much be another sellout. And that would be, I mean, we'll see how the Vegas games goes, but that's 3 sellouts and 3 home games so far this year.
What's the average ticket price for this game?
I can tell you that supporter section is $30 for this game. Normally supporter section was like $15 if you're not a season ticket holder or Steel Army member. Like, I believe that's what tickets usually cost. So it's double the price, but it's still pretty reasonable. Looking around the league, looking at other Open Cup matches, they're going for a lot more. Like, I've seen something like $75 for like standing room only in California. So there's definitely differences in prices.
Yeah, I mean, for very, very general estimates, right? What, $30 times 5,000, you're getting 150,000. And
that's for the cheapest ticket, because the sports section at Highmark is the cheapest ticket you can buy.
Yep.
So
So, I mean, looking at right now, lost the page, but I mean, 200 and something supporter section tickets and a handful. Like, I mean, you're talking about just a few tickets in the rest of the stadium right now.
No, you didn't hear from me, but like I got a feeling standing room only tickets are going to be sold if they sell out.
Yes. No,
for a long time.
I mean, they've been doing that for the whole season, right? I mean, isn't the capacity listed at 5,000, and we've had how many games with 5,200 tickets sold? But I mean, no, like 25 tickets outside of the supporter section are currently on sale. The question is, I mean, talking to Nicole and Jeff on Saturday, is it sounds like as they get info from season ticket holders to release their tickets, that they're not going to pay their invoice for that they're releasing tickets as they come back. But right now you're talking about 300 tickets left in the stadium. It's not a lot of tickets.
No,
it's fantastic.
I feel like locally it hasn't really been hyped at all. Like if you're a Hounds fan, like you know about the game, but it hasn't been on the news as much. And once that happens,
there was a lot.
I don't think they have to either. But yeah.
There was a lot of press as soon as we won that New England game. It was on different KDKA. It had it on there. I saw like tweets from a lot of like Pittsburgh personalities talking about the Hounds winning and going to the next round of the Open Cup. I did not watch the whole clip of the KDK thing because I believe I forget what the guy's name is, but he's like, so what's this mean if we win? Do we get into MLS? I'm like, okay, turn off. I don't want to hear some Joe Schmo talk about something he doesn't understand or doesn't know about. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be huge. It's going to be it's the fact that this is happening midweek and we're talking about a sellout. I mean, that tells you how big it is. Yeah, I'm just excited.
Yep. The winner of that game will end up playing either Red Bulls or Cincinnati. That's sort of our bracket, and then we move on. For whatever reason, I thought whenever the draw went down, if we were to win, we would also host, but I think that's not the case. No. I think we travel to either New York or Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Drivable trip for sure.
Before moving on to that, last Open Cup game, we're playing New England. Showing me Kizza failing. I'll start. You think anyone like that starting against Columbus?
This is going to be at home. I feel like we're going to see a regular starting lineup. I don't feel like Bob was be like, we'll throw out something. Right. I think you kind of have to. Like, this is a big deal. You don't want to get blown out. I mean, obviously, you're playing an MLS team. We talked about the price difference and all that stuff. It kind of, you can't expect too much from the Hounds, but they're going to make a show of it. And I got a feeling also it's who's going to want it a little bit more right now and who's going to be showing up with passion. And you never know what's going to happen in these Open Cup games. Just look at the last one.
To answer your question, Kevin, it's not that game, right? Like that's Las Vegas on Saturday, right? Like you're talking about the team that hasn't been able to win coming to town. Like that's where you're going to see those guys and probably still go out and get a result. And what do you do against a team that's, I mean, they've got the third least points, but they still haven't actually won a game.
Yeah.
At least the teams that are lower than, if you look at the two teams in the East, Hartford and Detroit, have both at least won. Like Las Vegas can't score. They can't win.
Yeah.
They're in bad shape.
Agreed. Guys, let's talk a little bit just about this Birmingham game. I know we've already spent a decent amount of time talking about it, but the Hounds win 2-1. Josh, there you go. Hopefully you finished that first one. Or no.
Oh, it's been gone for a while. I'm like, okay. You have to hurry up to this one. Get in parts.
Okay, good. Hounds win 2-1. We referenced it. Both goals come from Chico. Chico now has 9 goals in 10 games, leads the league in the Golden Boot. I just sort of assumed that he would be the USL Player of the Week or Player of the Week, and then Russell Cicerone goes and gets a hat trick for Sacramento because, of course, he does. But Chico still has 9, and the two guys behind him are Cicerone and Dixon with 7 each. So, I mean, that's a case right there of when they are able to be the guys, like they can be the guys, and it just might have been too much here at one time. Yeah, guys, we talked a little bit about Danny Griffin scoring and then not scoring. Originally on the feed, they said that it was offsides, and then it was like, no, it's not offsides. They tried to call him for a push. Josh, you shared the GIF of like the actual play. There was very little contact, and he headed the ball into the net. It was just a bad call.
Yeah.
Call.
So the media corps asked the ref via writing, and it was a standard number 2 push number whatever it was, blah blah blah. That was the official response. And
such a joke.
I mean, Bob was incensed about that, and like, I mean, talking about there was didn't lead to a goal obviously, but a point where, I mean, Pat Hogan got shoved from behind and the guy headed the ball, and no whistle, right? Like, and this calls off a goal. I mean for that, right? Like, and if you watch it back, like when the whistle is blown, when the ref takes action, there's a little bit of time and you see the Birmingham players complaining. Like, that's the bigger issue, that they complained, and it's like, did he even see what happened, or did he just listen to them and buy their story? Like, either way, that's completely inappropriate of a call. Like, absurd.
I liken it to, I was literally at a game on Friday night. My son's team played Friday night, and I was sitting on the sidelines with a bunch of other parents, and the refs were decent. I mean, they're all like kids, but literally there was a case where you could tell some of these parents could smell blood. And every time somebody was even close, they'd start yelling offsides, and then these kids would call offsides. And I'm sitting there, even though it's against us, I'm like, that's not offsides. Like, just like, chill, dude. Like, you don't have to listen to them. Like, go with your gut, even if your gut's wrong. Like, just. Yeah.
I just want to read Bob's quote. We haven't scored a ton of goals, but today, as far as I'm concerned, we scored 3. Overall, it was a good team effort.
Yeah. That felt like very much like, what can I say and not get fined? Like, how can I walk that line?
I like how you think he walked the line. I think he was just like, I don't know. I don't care about the line. But yeah, it was definitely, we scored 3. Like, this ref is stupid.
I mean, there was another moment earlier in the game too, where Dikwa was dribbling it towards the box, got hacked, and then the ref called the foul against him. Like, Dikwa was in front of the player, had the ball, had his legs taken out, but it was his fault. So.
No, I caveats the side, like, you know, this is a Riverhounds show. We're all Riverhounds fans. We're all biased towards Riverhounds. But I'm still waiting for these kind of calls to go in our favor when called against the team we're playing. Because it feels like it keeps happening to us, where it's just like goal chalked off, or just like ridiculous, no reasoning, like call going against us. It just keeps happening. And I'm waiting. It's like, okay, like, this will average itself out, right? This is just the nature of things. And it's just like, it just keeps not happening. Yeah, the Griffin thing was ridiculous. At the end of the match, I loved, I think it was after that great play Dikwa made, where he made like a lung busting run and like stole the ball, and the Birmingham defender pushed him over in the corner. And on the restart, Ibarra touched it back to Dikwa, and they called him offside. It's like, no, that's not possible. Like,
that's not the way the rules work. Yeah.
Oh my God, I was like, this is just ridiculous. But yeah,
I mean, that run, we should talk about that run. I know, Steve, I think you mentioned it earlier, but that run in the dying moments of the game, most players would let that go, and Dikwa did not. I mean, that goes beyond just scoring goals. Like, that is leadership right there.
Yeah.
And it's everything. You know, you mentioned him being good at sort of being the focal point where he can bring the ball down and distribute backwards. He drew fouls, multiple fouls in the New England game to slow the game down. He's drawing fouls in this game to slow the game down. I think that at this pace, there is a legitimate argument for him as MVP in the USL this year. Now, I know we're 10 games in, so like, we'll see if it continues. But for me thus far, as a biased Hounds fan,
usually I push back hard against your wild optimism, Mike, around this stuff. But like, I'm kind of in agreement with you. I mean, it's a little, and I don't watch any other games. So I don't really know what the hell other players are doing. Like, maybe they're doing really well, but I remember I used to play a little bit of like the Football Manager, or maybe it was even FIFA. I don't know. But like, there's categories for like strikers, right? You can be the striker, you can be a poacher, you can be like a fast forward. There was always one category that was just said complete forward. And I feel like Dikwa is just a complete forward, because he has a little bit of everything. And it's just, and he constantly kind of uses it to great effect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've got a question for the group, right? So, right now he's got 9 goals on the season in 10 games. So, that's 24 more games. How many more does he score? What does he end the season with?
Ooh.
I mean, I think he probably breaks 20, but just. I'd say he maybe gets 20 goals.
So you're saying 11 more goals?
Yeah.
Okay.
20. Oh man,
I have no clue. Like he's going to start sharing goals with Griffin though, so it's going to be cut down because he's not going to be the only option anymore.
I'll never hear the end of it.
I still think I don't disagree, but I also think that he does the dirty things, and I think 20 goals is a good shout. Like that's a lot. I mean, Steve, what were you thinking?
So okay, so I was looking at this because as I was reading the match notes the other day before the game, coming into the game on Saturday, he was in 9th place as the all-time Hounds goal scorer.
Jeez.
Okay. He's now in 8th place, moved ahead of Ngolu with 2 more goals. He at 25 goals as a Hound. Sitting in 2nd place is Kevin Kerr with 32. Right. So if Kev is right, if you're right, in one season he goes from not on the board to 2nd place.
Yeah.
And I'm fully there. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's 7 more goals. He's going to score 7 more goals. He's going to like the only player ahead of him is going to be Flavius. Right. Like, and he was here for a long time as the only striker. Right. Like that's like, I mean, I didn't watch the Hounds that early in their tenure, but
it's a different league back then.
Right.
It's a different, it's completely
he's got
different.
60. Right. Like clearing away, he's going to be right at the top of that list and of modern players, right? I mean, you've got Kerr, Brett, Vincent, Herzog, and Golu all in the top 10 right now. He's going to be above all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but at the same time, I maybe we should do some averaging here as far as like how many games in a season, because there is a lot of different factors there because the seasons now are longer than they've ever been.
Sure,
so gotta keep that in mind. But yeah, it is impressive regardless. Was wondering we should probably talk about the goal Birmingham scored because I have feelings.
Well, then share your feelings, Josh. This is an open space.
I don't understand. Like, okay, admittedly, I did not get to see it live because there was a mallet issue with our drums, and so I had to run to the storage container and get new mallets so that way we would have our second drummer back up and running. So I'm like walking behind the stadium, and I just hear everyone go boo. I'm like, crap, they just scored. So like I missed the goal live, so I had to watch it on replay. Wait, like no movement at all? Like was he surprised they kicked the ball?
No, I'm not upset with it. I think if that's on the other side of the goal, it's his responsibility. That's the like he's got the wall lined up to cover that side of the goal. He's leaning the other way. The ball is hit. He's off balance, and he doesn't have the moment to react. Nobody jumped in the wall. Like they made it far too easy for that ball to get up and over the wall and back down.
So you're saying not Wade's fault. You're saying it's the wall's fault because no one even jumped.
I'm not saying it's. I mean, it's his responsibility to organize the defense in that sense. But in terms of making that save, he's supposed to be covering the other side of the goal, not the side that the wall should be keeping the ball from dipping back down into.
So, Kev, we know you're typically critical of the keepers. We have one for Wall's fault. We have one for keeper's fault. Where do you land on this?
Okay, I'll give you an answer. No,
you won't.
This is one of those like I'm going to answer the question you didn't ask me.
Yeah. No,
okay.
my inclination more is to say it's the Birmingham player who struck the ball's fault. I think it was a really well taken free kick. I mean, like on some times you kind of just have to say, look, I mean, it was a great free kick and it went in the top corner. And that being said, I am leaning a little bit more towards Waite should get closer than he does. As you guys were talking about this, I went back and I looked at the clip. You're right. Like Steve, that part of the wall doesn't jump and the other part does. Like, so, and it looks like it just goes above their head. So maybe if they jump and you blah, blah, blah. But I think, I don't know. I think weight probably needs to do a little better.
Yeah. I think the other thing, you said it there, Kev, right? Like, how many times does that ball actually even get on frame in a USL game, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think what's
This is a
most
17-year-old
mind-boggling.
kid.
Yeah. This is a 17-year-old kid, just lights out, stone cold, over the wall and under the bar.
Yeah, no, it was a great hit.
Who cares?
No, yeah, and,
right?
and I'm sure that's kind of what goes through the goalie's mind in moments like that. It's like, look, if you put this in the top corner, great. Like, try. And he did. So, but yeah, no,
It's a 3-1 win, Josh.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, but that was still irksome. Just seeing the wall, like, yeah, you're right. Not jumping and weight, not moving. It all felt like we were in quicksand there, and it's irksome. I'm trying to see who didn't jump. I can't tell who it is.
No, I'm with you, Joe. I'm with you. I think, you can't have, if you're a championship team, you can't have moments where you switch off during the game and just assume things don't happen or whatever. And to continue to add a little bit to the bitterness around this, I will say we were just praising Dikwa, and I think he deserves all the praise. I remember last year Birmingham's goalkeeper like played out of his soul, right? Like he was amazing. I thought the goalkeeper was really bad for them this game. Like, I think Dikwa kind of got 2 pretty soft goals in my view. Like, I think on another night, if you come up against a good goalkeeper, I think he maybe even saves both of them.
I'm not sure anybody saves that second one because the positioning of where Dikwa was to get inside the defender on. I mean, he had 2 defenders on him, and I mean, I was close on the field at that point getting video, and man, like, I couldn't believe he even got to the ball, much less got that angle on it. And I mean, it just squeaked through. Like, the keeper was leaning the other way, ready to come out. I mean, I don't think the keeper was making the wrong decision. I just think that it was just like, and I mean, he talked about it in the post game. Like, Bob had told him, get yourself inside the shoulder of that defender. You're going to find a ball to get onto, and that was goal number 2.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say I got one closing thought on this game because we're already gonna run long, and that's fine. But Steve, you were talking to Dikwa post game, and one of the things that he mentioned, you asked him, like, with all of this depth, how do you keep getting? How do players keep getting on the field? And he said that one of the biggest things is the depth in the competition, and if you don't show up at practice, you're not going to play in the game. And in this game, you had Mike DeShields comes on and almost immediately scores. We already talked. We didn't even mention Biasi yet. Like last week, we were like, Biasi is legit outside back, like legit.
Right.
Comes on as a sub. Etu comes on as a sub. Ibarra comes on as a sub. Earlier this season, I said, prove me wrong. I want to come on this show and say that I was wrong. I'm like 90% of the way there. Like, I kind of feel like everything we're seeing in my like doomsday preseason prediction, there's a lot here that I'm liking. And so it's hard for me to be too negative about this team.
Right. Well, I mean, we talked about the midfield competition, right? I mean, we're going to be at a point soon where we've got 3 or 2 out-and-out wing backs, a flexible wing back / outside center back, and multiple other center backs that all are vying for playing time. And depending on the formation, right? So I mean, you've got Rovi, Biasi, Dos Santos, Hogan, Arturo, Blackstock, Farrell, maybe Alal at some point if he can make it back in, right? Like, I mean, that's 8 guys for at most 5 spots on the field. That when there's 4 at the back, what do we do, right? Like 7 for 4 at the right? Like, I mean, the competition is just insane at every spot on the field right now, except for forward, and that's only because Chico's putting in a goal every almost 90 minutes.
Yeah. So
2 things. One, Only thing worse than Van Okel's keeping was his haircut. It was terrible. I don't know if it got close-ups of it, but his hair looks awful.
Saving the low blows for late. Go ahead,
yeah. And two, another sad part of the fact that Griffin's goal, first time playing in front of the Steel Army or in front of Highmark this season, was called off. Was his goal celebration was so great. I don't know if you guys saw the picture that got shared from the Hounds today. But him in the Steel Army section, just looking so happy. Smoke was popped. We all thought it was a goal, and then slowly realized it was a goal. Yeah, slowly realizing, why is the ball all the way still down here? Why is the keeper about ready to kick the ball? Oh no.
What the Steel Army tweet was, bet he's glad he's back.
Right.
Yeah. Well, guys, a huge points. I think we had talked about early in the season. I know I was concerned about Birmingham's offense. I'm still concerned about Birmingham's offense. I think they have a really good offense, but we were able to hold them to, basically
but as were the past two teams that they played as well.
This is true. Yes. So
I think my last word on the Birmingham, I thought this was two really good teams squaring up against each other, both taking shots at each other. And I think over the course of the game, we were the team who created more and better chances, and we deserved to get the 3 points, and that's what happened.
I think that's
Pasher who?
Pasher who? That's right.
He still looked good. I don't know.
He was on the field? I didn't know that. Okay.
Guys, we are now officially 10 games in, which means we can officially look at the standings. Yay! So on the screen right now, for those of you watching, which probably is no one, because who's watching us at this point.
JF is still here.
JF is still here. Thank you, JF. We got the standings. The Battery are currently the number one team in the East, although they did lose handedly this weekend. They got crushed, followed by Louisville, Birmingham, Tampa. We are currently in fifth, but we are tied on points with Tampa, who are in fourth. We've got 14 points. Most importantly, Detroit City, 5 points and in last place. Woo! So we're at this point, we're sort of comfortably in a playoff spot. I know it's early. I almost feel ridiculous actually looking at the standings and actually thinking anything about them at this point. But just for context, if you're like, how are the Hounds performing? Here we got it. We got 3 wins, 2 losses and 5 draws. And now we're going to start this homestand coming up here over the course of the summer. We'll see if we can put some more points on the board and see what we can do. But
I think my favorite thing about this is not necessarily even our place in the table. It's the fact that I feel like at this point in previous seasons, you would either have a Louisville or a Tampa who have gone like 9 wins and a draw. And no one's like that. So it feels like it's going to be a much more wide open field this time around.
Agreed. So that's the standings, guys. Let's talk just quickly about Pick'em. So we had 2 games for Pick'em this week in terms of movement. Kevin has not moved at all, so the chase is on. We had a couple people pick the Birmingham game dead on. We had, like I said, 2 people get the result of the New England game just right. So still leading our Pick'em is Kevin with 11, Laura Ellen with 9, and Dan Yost at 9. And then Devin Pay with 8 points, Keaton Liebengood with 7, and Michael Finn has now climbed onto the screen with 7 points as well. The thing that I keep thinking about every time I put this together is that we are all terrible at this. It's very hard to pick scores in the USL. So if you're interested in potentially winning 2 free season tickets for the Hounds in 2024, get involved every week before every game, including the Open Cup games. We put out a tweet. We put up a post over on YouTube. You go over to YouTube. You leave a comment with your score predictions. 3 points if you get the score exactly correct. 1 point if you pick the correct result. So win, draw, loss. No points if you don't get either of those. And it's still anyone's contest at this point. You figure Kevin got 11 points out of 12 games. So we're all averaging less than a point a game at this point. So you can jump in and make it happen. It's a lot of fun.
If you get a point a game, that's great, right? Because that means you're constantly calling the correct outcome.
Result. Yeah. You're calling the right result, which, like I said, is still really hard to do. Guys, Vegas comes to town this Saturday. Steve,
got
you already alluded to the fact that they can't win. Not like saying that optimistically that there's no way they can beat the Hounds. They literally have not won yet this year. They're last place in the West, 3 losses, 6 draws.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that said, they've conceded 6 goals less than Birmingham. So like Birmingham's a pretty good team. So they've kept 6 more out of their goal than Birmingham has. When you try to compare the two teams, we essentially have the same number of shots on target and shooting accuracy as they do. The difference is just that our defense is a lot better than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So the one thing that I always seem to look for, I know Houndsley looks for it as well. There's no former Hounds in the squad, so we don't run the risk of a former Hound scoring on us. They're even just looking through the list. There were a few familiar names just from being around the league for that long, but there's no standout players that sort of grabs you and makes you worried. So, guys, any thoughts with Vegas coming to town before we get into our score predictions here?
There's talks that this could be a trap game because of the fact that it is going to be a game right before the Open Cup. So we're kind of very much going to be looking towards the Open Cup. It might be easy to look past this game for the guys. I don't think that's going to be the case, but that is kind of like the fear about this game is that it has the makings of a trap game. So just keep that in mind.
I think I would feel more worried about this being a trap game if it was like Detroit or like Loudoun, like the fact that they're coming from Vegas and like they've been so poor, they can almost write this one off as a gimme and then get back to West Coast action. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yep. Doing predictions? We doing
Kev. It? Yeah. I was like, who should I pick on first? Kev, give us a score prediction.
1-0 Hounds.
1-0 Hounds. Steve, what do you got?
He took my score prediction.
You can take his too.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick 1-0 because I think that there's no way that Vegas is gonna find a goal, but they're gonna play open because they also are able to give up some goals, and somebody is going to score their first goal of the season, I think, or a midfielder is going to score their second or something like that, right? Like,
I went, ooh, like you were alluding to somebody. That could have been 90% of our team.
Right. No, but it's going to be like I don't think Deke was going to be the scorer. I don't think Kiz is going to be the scorer, right? Like those are our multi-goal scorers, if I have it right.
Danny, it is. Got it.
It's Danny, Kenny, Robbie, Marky, give it to a defender, right? Like, or one of those guys that is pushing for time, like DZ or Langston or Tola.
Yeah, I like it. Josh,
actually going 2-1. I know it seems them scoring, but they've actually only not scored, I think, in 2 games so far this season. They usually at least score 1 goal. Also, keep in mind most of their games have been away, so it's not exactly like they're having a huge issue because they are drawing a lot and they're drawing away a lot. So,
well, they were drawing away a lot at the beginning of the season, and that's kind of started to change a little bit.
Yeah, and also, I mean, like I don't know, our defense is good, but it's not great. Like we haven't, if you exclude Open Cup games, and I know that's a huge asterisk, but if you exclude Open Cup games, we haven't had a shutout for a month, and so I don't know.
But I also look at the quality of like what it takes to beat our defense and put the ball in the back of the net, right? Like, I mean, it's took a goal from a set piece this weekend. And in Monterey, I mean, both of those goals were like, I mean, you guys talked about it last week, right? Like, I mean, Alex's goal was, if we had done that, we'd be singing the praises of how amazing of a goal it was. And Christian's goal was really nice too, right? Like it's taking special plays. I haven't watched Las Vegas, but I don't see anything in what I'm looking at with them that tells me that they're scoring really good technical goals from open play.
I love that, like, you guys go first and then you just talk all this through so that I have more time to like digest all of it and think through what I actually think. I think the one other wild card for me in terms of picking this is how much does that Open Cup game influence Lily's lineup decision? If you have a lot of guys that are battling and you have some that are like on the fence of like, they could be starting or there's a really good battle, then maybe do you give the spot to the guy who you don't think you're going to start in the Open Cup? And how much does that impact what actually happens on the field? I was inclined to say like just go gangbusters and say like 3-0 Hounds. I don't know if that's going to be the case if we have. But you know what? There've also been time. I mean, a decent chunk of the New England game did not feature Dequa or Kenny Forbes. So I'm saying 3-0 Hounds. Let's do it.
Nice. Love it.
Yeah.
But I like what you said there, Mike. Like, and it makes me think, like, we watched it in New England, right? Like a team that was not a starting 11 or 11 of the starting 14 players that Bob can choose from still went out and found a way to get a goal from somebody and keep a good team off the board.
Yeah.
And why do we think anything's going to change this week?
Yeah, agreed. JF, who is still watching live, predicted a 3-2 Hounds win. So thanks, JF, for hanging with us. You too could be watching us live and participating in the comments. We always appreciate it. It's a good time. Guys, that's what we think. Let us know what you think. This was a great conversation, lots of fun, as evident by the fact that we're sort of almost 20 minutes over. So hopefully you enjoyed it as well. Check us out on Twitter. We had a lot of discussion about Twitter. We'll see what sort of happens there with the way that's going. But make sure that you follow us on YouTube for all of the latest. We might be going somewhere else as well. So if you are somewhere else religiously, socially, that sounds really weird. If you're on certain social platforms, let us know. Maybe we'll go there too. Huge game this week against Vegas. If you haven't got your tickets yet for Columbus, do it soon because there's there may not be any left as of this recording. So it's a great time to be a Hounds fan. So thanks everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.